Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Leader Lift podcast. And I am with a great friend of mine. His name is Pastor Andrew Gard, who pastors an amazing church. But not only does he pastor an amazing church called Great City Church, but also he's an incredible father and husband. And I'm really, really excited because here he is on the podcast. He's a baller. He's an analyst. He's a leader. He's a pastorpreneur. You name it, that's what he is. And he's also a deadly assassin. We should call him Sniper when he takes threes.
Okay, I love it.
And played basketball with him one time, and no mas. Anyway, it's good to have you, Andrew. Great to have you on the podcast. Welcome.
Oh, good to be on, Mike. Love you so much, man. Love just who you are as a leader, who you are as a person. Yeah, man, just love everything you're doing, everything you're about.
Oh, we love what you guys are doing. It's pretty awesome because before in our ministry worlds collided, because you were already working for Roger Archer at another church. I think the first time we had met in my recent memory was that we met on the basketball court.
Yes.
But you were so good. You were junior high pastor. I was a senior high pastor rolling in, into the Y. But then I pulled my hammy before I played. Wasn't full strength. But when I saw you play, and Roger was still touching the rim back then. He was dunking back then.
Yeah, he was. He was still going. Yep.
Yeah, and that whole staff. You guys had ballers on that staff. We had
a lot of good players. Because Veach was on that staff. A guy, Luke Breton Van Grohl was on that staff. And then we had a bunch of our youth leaders, like a Josh Bernard that played at University of Washington. And so we would play every Tuesday morning. We played every Tuesday morning with our staff and key leaders. And it was great runs. And I remember you were in town for one of those. And that's I remember that.
What I love about Roger is Roger picked the staff based upon basketball skills back then.
None of us can preach, none of us can lead, but we could hoop. So it was. We had a great time.
I think that was a prerequisite back then. You can hoop first, and then you pick it up along the way, and you guys have all become world class leaders.
That was a fun staff. That was a fun team for sure.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. So we're going to be talking about Holy Hoops. We're breaking down a little bit of The Last Dance, and I got some questions for you. But I think we're going to have a great time. But tell me, basketball ministry, how did you get involved? I know a little bit about the ministry journey. I'd love to know about what was basketball to you?
Yeah, so basketball has been honestly a central placeholder in my life for as long as I can remember. I was born a single mom. And so it was kind of raised in that environment, more urban inner city upbringing, grew up in, apartments and reduced rent housing, stuff like that. And so grew up playing. And when I was about 7, my mom started dating a guy named John Gard, who adopted me and really became my dad. And he got me into sports. And so I kind of did everything right. I played football, basketball, baseball, soccer. I kind of played everything. And my two best sports, I excelled. I did well at all. My two best sports were actually soccer and basketball. Those are my two best sports. But I grew up kind of urban inner city, Tacoma, Washington. And so nobody cared if you were good at soccer. So I was like, I'm not going to play something that nobody cares if you're good.
That was for Bellevue. And Redmond.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Yeah, I'm not an East Side kid. So I was like, nobody cares if you're good at soccer. So I'm good at basketball. I'm going to keep doing that. So kept doing that. And then by the time I was in 8th grade, I was just playing basketball. I had quit I kind of done away with the other sports. Because then at that point, you start playing AAU and you start traveling all summer and you're pretty much playing basketball year round. And I was kind of, I'm 37. I was right there at that cusp, just at the end of when you played everything all through high school. Now kids are more specialized and kids start like at 4th, 5th grade. They're picking one sport. So I was right there at the end of that where you just kind of play everything. And if you were athletic, you played like 3 sports in high school. Exactly. So I was kind of like right there at the end where pretty much if you were one of the top guys in that particular sport, you just played that sport. And so I did that, played, like I said, played basketball exclusively through high school, through college. Did well in high school, was all conference 2 years and did well.
Wow.
And then my senior year of high school, early on it's Division I or bust. Like when you're younger, it's like you want to play Division I. That's what you want to do.
Right.
So I didn't have any D1 offers out of high school. I had a lot of D2 offers in like Washington State area and Oregon and places like that. And so I said, and at that time, Tacoma Community College was like one of the best JUCOs on the West Coast.
Yeah.
And so said, man, and great culture, like amazing. Carl Howe was my coach at JUCO, best coach I ever had by far. And so went and played at Tacoma Community College, and we won a championship there. My freshman year, I was a starting point guard on that team. I think we ended up we had a bunch of D1 guys on that team my freshman year, and then in between my freshman and sophomore year, that's when I really felt like, man, I think I'm supposed to do ministry. So at that time, that's when I started getting recruited by like low-level Division I's and stuff like that. Where I was probably going to be able to be a Division I basketball player, but I really felt kind of this call to ministry. So I was like, man, I need to go to like a Christian school. I need to go to a Christian school. So so I go into my JUCO's coach's office and I say, hey, can you call Northwest and tell them that I'd be interested in playing there? And now Northwest wasn't recruiting me because, they didn't think that they would be able to get me. You know, you tend to recruit guys that you think are in your
yeah.
And so they weren't recruting me. So
it's like dating. It's like dating back in the day.
Exactly. It's
I can get her. I don't know if I can get her.
No, I'm gonna go here. Yeah, there's levels to this. And so it's a lot like dating. And so I go in and tell him, hey, I want to go to Northwest. And he said, excuse me. He said, he goes, are you bleeping kidding me? Like, but not bleeping,
Yeah.
And I go, no, like, can you call them? And he goes, sleep on it for a couple of days, and then I'll call them in a couple of days if you still want me to call them. So sleep on it for a couple of days. I already knew I wanted him to call him. So I tell him, no, give him a call. So he calls them. They come down the next day, offer a full ride. And so I signed with them even before my sophomore year. So then I played JUCO at TCC my sophomore year, already signed with Northwest, and had a really good year my sophomore year. And then had more Division I's kind of like, calling, because it's interesting in NAI, it's not contractually binding like it is in the NCAA.
Okay.
And so I could have just not went, but that's where I wanted to go. And that's what I wanted to do. Yeah. And for me, at the end of the day, it was about getting school paid for. And, so I kept my commitment to Northwest after my sophomore year, but this is actually a cool basketball story. So only one D1 coach called me after I signed with Northwest, that was recruiting me. And I'll never forget this. He called me up and he said, man, hey, Andrew, I just want to let you know that I really respect the way you're making your decisions, because in 5 years, no one's going to care where you played or even if you played. But did you set up your life and position yourself in a way that set you up for the rest of your life? And I'll never forget that D1 coach calling me and encouraging me in how I was making my decision when I was 21. So that was really encouraging. No other, because coaches don't call you once you've signed somewhere. It's not what they do.
Right.
And but I'll never forget that, and ended up going to Northwest and was a starting point guard there for 2 years. Met my wife there, met friends there that are still close friends today. So I look back on my life and go, man, I made the right decision. However, if I was living two lives, I would have went and played Division I basketball in another life.
So who was your pick list? Who was your pick? Like, if I could play D1 and play for this team and it was realistic, where would that have been?
If I would have went D1, I probably would have signed with Eastern, because Eastern at that time had a lot of former TCC guys. And in fact, my JUCO coach went there to be the head assistant there. And the only time I regretted my decision was that March, the following March, I'm sitting in my apartment at Northwest University, and Eastern won the Big Sky tournament and played in the Big Dance. And I watched Eastern play in the Big Dance. And that was the only time that I regretted my decision, as I went, and it would have been pretty cool to play in March Madness.
Well, I remember Roger bragging about you. He said, you turned down D1 scholarships in order to play at Northwestern, NAI school, Christian school. I thought that was amazing. I remember when I saw you play, I thought, dang, two people that you remind me of. Number one, remind me of my younger brother.
Cool.
I think I told you my younger brother, he's 49. He can still dunk. And he's like my height, barely 6 feet. Cut my hair like you. I'm 5'11" and a half. You know what I'm saying? And he's got hops, like crazy hops, and he can shoot, and he's a killer. But then the other person I thought of immediately was like Rex Chapman.
I love that. I love
It
that.
was smooth. It was a smooth game. A guy who can jump, but got game on the outside and the perimeter, and that's what I thought. I said,
remember when Rex Chapman I don't know if you're like, but remember when Rex Chapman killed the Sonics in one of those playoffs series?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Rex Chapman was really good.
His turnaround jumper from three, right? When he would turn around,
exactly.
and he had that leg kick. His right leg would kick.
Yep.
And that was sweet. That was just form. His form was just, his style was amazing. But he was amazing too. So basketball, let me ask you a question. Are you living in basketball? Wait a minute, there's no March Madness. We passed that. There's no, is the Last Dance feeding you right now?
I mean, it's like an appetizer. I mean, I'm enjoying it, but man, we should be in the throes of like right now, it should be the conference final. Like, you know, the NBA should be in that like Western Conference Finals, Eastern Conference Finals is what we should be watching right now. And it would have been great because it would have been like the Clippers and the Lakers and you know, and it would have been like probably the Bucks and, you know, maybe the Celtics, the 76ers, yes, it's devastating right now that the NBA is not going on. It's devastating, but I am really liking The Last Dance. I'm really, really liking it.
What do you like about it? What has stood out to you for the first few episodes so far?
Man,
like caught you by surprise, maybe.
Yeah, a ton of things. One is it's amazing how different things are allowed to happen in different eras. It's kind of like leadership. It's like church. Like, for example, like in today's culture, there's no way that you would have a team that won 3 championships in a row and you would run off the coach.
Right.
That would never happen in today's NBA. It would never happen in today's NBA where you would have the best player in the world and the best player in the world is telling you, if that coach leaves, I'm not playing. And management would go, okay. That would not happen in today's NBA. So it's interesting to me what was allowed to happen in one era is like unheard of in another era. It's just, I mean, like every team that LeBron James has been on, he is management. He runs. He decides everything. So it's hard for me to fathom an era where that's happening, where Jerry Krause can run off a Phil Jackson who's won you 6 rings. It just doesn't.
And also, things that are happening in the NBA back then will never happen today. So in other words, hand checking, you can't even do that anymore. I mean, you can, but my gosh, I mean, it's a soft game compared to what it used to be back then. Back then, you were going for a fast break layup in the fourth quarter. You're probably going to pay for it. You're going to pay for it somehow if you're going for it or whatever. If they were smart, they were managing their fouls. They wouldn't touch you maybe. Yeah. But now.
Well, here's what I think. I think the biggest difference is I still think the game is pretty physical. I do think that people don't give the game today enough credit for how physical it is. Because there's been times, you know, like pastors, like we got to have a hookup for everything, right? So there's a guy that will treat me a handful of times throughout the year to like courtside seats at the Orlando Magic game.
Let me know when that is. Let me know when it is. I want to hook up to your hookup.
Yes, and I'm always blown away actually at how physical it is. The biggest difference, though, when we're watching like these clips on The Last Dance versus now is what a flagrant foul is. That's the biggest difference. It is that you used to be able to just kill somebody coming down the lane, and it was a common foul. Now, it's like you can't get too hard fouls like that. Otherwise, you're ejected. I think that's the biggest difference. But there have been rules, for example, like they didn't have back then. For example, remember that you used to, like, if you were a big man and somebody was coming down the lane, or you had to stay on the ground to take a charge. You did not be able to jump. And so now when I go to a game, now, like, they changed this rule like a handful of years ago where you get all the space vertical. So as long as you keep your arms up, you can jump straight up. Well, that's a lot different than it was because when Jordan's playing, like you couldn't jump. And, you know, otherwise you're going to get called for a foul. So I think it's more physical back then than it is now. I still think it's pretty physical now because when I go to games, I'm like, this is a physical game at the NBA level. The biggest difference is what a flagrant foul is back then versus what a flagrant foul is, what a flagrant foul is now.
The other thing is the athleticism is so much greater than back then for most of the athletes, right? Today than back then. I mean, I'm just watching on TV. I've seen a few games up close, just a few. But the athleticism is just leaps and bounds different.
Oh, it's a different game. The NBA is much deeper now than it was back then. And that's not to say if Jordan played today, he'd average 45 a game. But it's a lot deeper. The NBA is just a lot deeper because there's more kids playing basketball and things like that.
Yeah.
And they're more athletic. That's where sometimes I'm way more of a Jordan guy than I'm a LeBron guy. Jordan is the greatest player of all time. I don't even think it's close.
Yeah, me too.
And so when I have these conversations with all these cats that are 21, 22 at my church, there's a debate we have every Sunday standing on the front steps of the church greeting people is this Jordan LeBron thing. And I just don't even think it's close. However, their argument that they often say, which is kind of a good point. I don't like to give it to them, but it's kind of a good point. They're like, yeah, but all these Jordan clips I see are Jordan backing down like guys like Jeff Hornacek and Craig Elo. And I'm like, wow. There were a lot of like really bad white athlete playing the two guard that Jordan was killing back then.
Yeah, everybody wanted to follow the model of Paxson, right? He got a good 6'4" white guy who can shoot.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's like the NBA is filled with 6'5", 6'6", athletic two guards. It's changed a lot in that way for sure.
So when you say the game would have been deeper today, that means like they're pulling it back behind the 3-point line deeper, shooting from deep. Is that what you mean? Or deeper bench?
No, I mean the talent is deeper. I think the better players, like I think the guys that are like fringe all-stars right in the NBA right now would be unbelievable during Jordan's time.
Right.
Like we never talk about James Harden being a top 3 or 4 player. Typically it's like, no, right now it's still LeBron, it's Giannis, it's, when he's healthy, Steph. It's like, Harden probably would have been one of the top 2 or 3 players in the league when Jordan was playing. So I just think it's deeper. I like Kyrie Irving probably is like a player number 5, 6, 7, maybe 10, 11, 12. It's like, he would have been like an Isaiah Thomas back then.
No kidding. No doubt.
So I just think the NBA is a lot deeper. You get to the top 3 players, it's like, they're probably pretty comparable, but you get to player 15, 18, 25. I think it's a lot different.
So let me ask you a question. So growing up, who was your favorite team?
Well, I was a Sonics guy. Grew up in the Seattle area. So I was a Sonics guy. I grew up in the era of, when they were good. You had Gary Payton, Detlef Schrempf, and Sean Kemp, and Sam Perkins, and Hersey Hawkins, that. So I grew up in that era, and then I became a huge Kobe guy. From once I was about 7th grade, 8th grade, Kobe was the dude. Like I remember I was in 9th grade when I had Kobe's like first shoes, the Adidas, like the Crazy 8s.
Those were puffy, man.
Yeah, when he was with Adidas. Yep. And I remember I had those in 9th grade. That's what I was playing with. So I was a Kobe guy from middle school on. And so the Lakers kind of became my team kind of after that because of Kobe.
So who was your favorite? Well, let me ask you some crazy questions. Okay. So first of all, favorite shoe. What's your favorite shoe?
Oh man.
To play in. Favorite shoe to play in.
I've been playing in like KDs for the last 2 years. I was wearing Kobe's kind of before that, but I've always been like a low top basketball. Like I was wearing like runners. I was making shoes become basketball shoes back in the day. Cause I liked low top shoes playing basketball before that was like a thing.
It's free. It's freeing when you run.
Exactly. So now, when Kobe started doing that, years ago, probably 8, 9, 10 years ago now, when they started making like low top basketball shoes. Really, Kobe was kind of doing that. I was doing that way before that. So I play with KDs, and exactly like I love that. Yeah, exactly.
This is I think this is the last Kobe that he made. I got this in Manila. They bought this in Manila. Well, they bought it for me as a gift in Manila. So I don't wear them anymore. After
that is
pass,
so sick. Yeah.
I don't wear them. And then I got this one, but you know what? My favorite shoe is right here to play in is this. This Adidas, bro. This Ultra Boost.
Yeah.
Low top.
Okay.
This is all you right here. The cushion on this thing is nuts.
Okay. Yeah. I've been playing in KDs for like the last about 2 to 3 years, and I was doing Kobe's pretty much before that.
I would say I highly suggest you try these. And I was doing the Kyries,
and obviously that Jordan
are hard.
When obviously that Jordan right there is the best shoe ever made. Maybe not to play in, but it's the best Jordan of all time, best shoe of all time.
Yeah. This one in the low top too. But this is sweet.
Yeah, best shoe of all time.
So just letting everybody know, like, I don't spend all my money on this. And by the way, I'm 52. I should. But anyway, these were all given to me. Gift. And I'm just bringing out 3 shoes from my collection. But this I play in. And this is only $45 on the Adidas website.
There you go.
Right now, the best basketball shoe I've ever worn.
Rocking. I love it,
That's what I'm rocking.
I love it.
So, favorite player right now? Who's your favorite player?
Okay, I decided this a month ago. About maybe 2 months ago. My favorite player, and in fact, I'm going to teach my son, and he's young enough to where I can teach my son, this is our guy. So this is going to be my son's guy for the next 13 to 15 years.
Stop. Trae Young.
No.
Okay, go.
Luka.
Luka Doncic.
Luka Doncic is my dude. He is You're exactly right. How I'm going to teach Justice how to play. He's exactly like I was watching them play. This is right before the NBA season was done and got put on pause. And I went, I like made a conscious decision. I was like, that's my dude. That's the dude that I'm going to get courtside tickets for to bring my son to. That's it. And he's young enough to where my son will be, 11, 12, and he'll be like 31, 30. He'll be in the prime of, of his career. So
I was thinking the same thing right after that. Right after Trae, I was thinking Trae because of height,
Yeah.
But then I was thinking, man, the next guy would be Luka because he's young enough.
Dude,
not
Luka,
Zion, because you got to be a freak to be like Zion.
Yeah. And I'm just telling you, watch, in the next handful of years, Luka will be a top 3 to 5 NBA player in about the next 3 or 4 years.
I agree.
I mean, this dude just turned 21.
I know.
Just turned 21, and he's like, killing cats. And he's not even like incredibly athletic. He's just a basketball dude, knows the game. He's a perfect example. He's been playing pro. He played for Real Madrid. He's been playing pro since he was 15 at the second, besides the NBA, the best league is that Real Madrid league. And when he was 18, he was MVP of the league and led his team to the finals at the second best league in the world besides the NBA. So, incredible. That whole farm system. He was living there. He was already used to being away from his mom. It's just an incredible story. Yeah.
Incredible story.
Luke is my dude right now and will be for a long time.
Okay, so who was the hottest before the COVID? Who was the hottest because of the COVID before it?
The team?
Hottest player before COVID.
Hottest player? I mean, I hate to say this, but probably LeBron, to be honest. I think. Now, I've been a notorious LeBron hater, but not like a hater. Like when some people, they're haters, but they can't appreciate. Like I call them irrational haters.
Right. Yeah. Totally.
It's like, come on, man. I can hate on LeBron and still go, he's probably the 3rd best player of all time, behind, in my opinion, Michael and Kareem, and then I think it's probably LeBron. It's like I can say he's an all-time great, but there's things about his mentality per se that I don't love, and things of that nature. But I think LeBron's one of those dudes. He makes it look so easy. We will miss him when he's gone, and I think LeBron rolls out, and they have the best record, in the West, and he's 27, 28, 9-8, and we're like, and we're so used to it, we're not even impressed by it anymore.
I know.
And so I think LeBron probably is the MVP of the league. And then obviously Giannis would be right there. I think him and Giannis are kind of right there. And I think even for best player in the league, I think it's kind of, they're both right there looking at each other. I hate that KD is hurt because I thought last year before KD got hurt, I thought he was the best player in the world.
Right. He was, in my opinion.
Yeah. A healthy KD
Absolutely.
to me is the best player in the world right now.
Okay, so who's benefiting the most during COVID right now then? Who's benefiting the most by COVID happening?
Man, good question. Maybe the Clippers, because they're going to get all those boys healthy. They haven't played together a lot. Right. And I know it would be nice for them to get healthy and play a bunch of games together, but they're going to be healthy. I think they're the deepest team. I think if in a playoff, I actually think the Clippers beat the Lakers. I think if NBA comes back,
I think so too.
I think win the championship.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this.
So they got dogs. They're so deep.
Oh yeah. I mean, when Lou Williams is coming off the bench and he's always the 6th man of the year. That guy is amazing. Yeah. What a great team. I was thinking about this too, though. Steph Curry's benefiting by this COVID. He's getting healed up. I think KD's benefiting by this COVID. He's getting healed up. I don't think they're missing a lot right now. They're not missing a lot. So it's almost like, okay, well, I can get healed up. Klay Thompson is getting healed up during this time.
Yeah, the only reason though with those guys is the I would agree with what's interesting is I was watching ESPN the other day and they were talking about could KD play if the NBA comes back in July and they finish the season and go July and August and him and Steph are healthy and they're like the 6th seed in the playoffs. Could you imagine that?
Yeah.
I wasn't even thinking about that. Now with Golden State, they're so far out of the playoffs. Even if they come back, they're out of the playoffs. And so for them, it doesn't matter. But I was thinking about when I saw that and I was like, man, that's crazy. That'd be wild if this thing gets pushed back and that 2 or 3 extra months lets KD come back and play this year for a championship as like the 6th seed out of the East.
You got some knowledge, bro. You just go deep on this stuff. Let me ask you a question. So who's your favorite team right now then? Who's your team?
You know what's funny is I've tried to make the Orlando Magic my team just because I'm in the area now. I've tried my hardest, Mike. I just can't get behind them because there doesn't seem to be a plan. Like they draft good players, but there's no real plan. Like what kind of team are they? So to be honest, I don't really have a team right now that I'm like, oh man, I'm cheering for. I don't have like a rooting interest per se, as much as I just love to see narratives move forward. So I'd love to see Giannis. I'd love to see Giannis get one early so we can see how many he can get. I'd love it. I'd love it if the Bucks won it this year, and all of a sudden Giannis, at how young he is, how good he is, it's like, man, could he put together 3, 4, 5 championships?
I've had a hard time finding myself a team as well. I mean, I was a Spurs guy for a really long time. Okay. Really long time. Yep. And then I feel like Pop's going into an area socially where I was like, gosh, really? Yeah. I thought you were a little bit more conservative. Yeah. I was kind of surprised. Yeah. So, but and plus, they don't have the players to back it up anymore.
Well, I was going to say, and all the guys that made you a fan, it was like me and Kobe with the Lakers. The guys like Duncan and Ginobili, Robinson. Those guys are gone. And Robinson.
Ginobili, yes.
Yeah, those dudes are gone. So it's hard to – because you cheer for the players, not the organizations per se, unless it's a hometown thing. Like as soon as the Sonics have a team, I'm back on it. As soon as Seattle has a team, I would be back on it.
Oh, absolutely. But see, I mean, looking at how the Spurs was the organization that everybody loved, everybody respected, and now they respect Pop, not so much the organization. Right. What do you think the impact was when the whole thing was drawn out with what was his name, the Claw?
Kawhi Leonard.
Kawhi Leonard. When that whole thing tested their culture.
Yeah, no doubt.
That was mind blowing. That was like, I was very, very disappointing. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think. What's interesting? I think when you have a strong culture, we're seeing this a little bit. It's going to be interesting to watch the Patriots this year. Switching sports a little bit. It's going to be interesting to watch the Patriots this year.
Yes.
And okay, was it Tom Brady? Was it Bill Belichick? I think sometimes it gets into Pop where you go, okay, was it Duncan and Robinson and Ginobili and Kawhi, or was it the culture? And I think if we're not careful, man, there's such a tension in there, right? Even as leaders, where it's like we want to have a strong culture. And I think our culture can make people better than maybe another culture could. I think our culture
so
can make
true.
people better. And so there's this tension of going, our culture is making you better, while at the same time not being so prideful to think that your culture, doesn't need also great people. Right. And I think there's a tension in that. So I think sometimes it can just be a miscommunication too. Sometimes people just don't vibe. And I think Kawhi was open to something else. I think it's why Tom Brady kind of wanted to leave New England, and probably why Kawhi Leonard wanted to leave San Antonio, because those are, both, Pop and Belichick had this almost overbearing. They'll yell at even their star players. And there does come a moment where you go, okay, I've paid my dues. I'm cool with that. I don't want to be yelled at anymore. And so I think some guys just go, okay, I've ran in the strict culture for a long time. I want to see if there's other ways, because the reality is there's a lot of different ways to do it too. And I think sometimes we got to be careful in our leadership that, that strict, hardcore discipline, that works. and so does Pete Carroll for the Seattle Seahawks. That resulted in Super Bowls too. And so has, Steve Kerr with the Golden State Warriors, where he kind of lets them figure it out. He lets the players kind of figure it out. And that kind of works too. So I think there's a lot of ways to skin a cat. And I think that it got to a point where Kawhi was like, I want to see what a different way feels like.
Yeah, that's really good. I like that insight. It's the same way with church, even with pastoring. Your style changes over the years, your leadership style. You see what works, and then you see what worked isn't working anymore with this new generation. Right. Can't approach it that way. You can't talk to them that way. In some sense, and sometimes in some circles you can. In most sense, you have to lead them in a different way. I also feel like in this time, fatherhood is huge. And so when you've got somebody like Tom Brady, who's been fathered, obviously seems pretty well.
Yeah.
When you are fathered well and you come into another situation where another strong male figure, there's a dynamic that you deal with. When Kawhi, he was, we don't hear about his father, we hear about his uncle. And that father figure that probably Popovich was a different dynamic when he got older,
It served him well.
Man, I'm growing.
Yep. It served him well when he was young. And then it was like, okay, I'm different.
One thing we're seeing, no doubt about it, in all these sports is how important culture is. When you look at Krause saying the organization was, we get it, right? The organization is greater than the sum of its parts, greater than the coach, greater than player. We are all as an organization, we got it done. But you also see that his limitations and in his thinking of, the Bible says, do not think of yourself more highly than you ought to, right? At some point. And oh my gosh, they could have rode that gravy train for so much longer.
Well, and also it just wasn't true, because Chicago was traditionally a terrible basketball place.
Terrible.
Awful before Jordan got there. They were terrible. Oh. And so it was interesting in one of the ones, I forget what episode it was, but in The Last Dance, where it was right after the championship, and Krause says it like 4 or 5 times. It got awkwardly so. Like right after they're in the locker room after the championship, and he goes, "This is a great organization. The organization. This is a great organization." Like
right.
You could tell he was saying something. Which I just thought, here's my philosophy. If you got to tell people you're the boss, you're not the boss, bro.
Exactly.
If you got to tell people they work for you, they don't work for you, bro. So it felt like instead of just being a great organization, like you don't hear Belichick go, "We're a great organization." They just are a great organization. And so when Jerry Krause, it's almost like he's trying to convince the media, and he's trying to sell this to the media or sell it to himself. And it's just interesting. It's like, man, if you got to sell people on what you are, then you're probably not that as much as you think you are. And so
true.
So it was very interesting to watch that clip for sure.
It's like the pastor that says, "I'm the pastor of this church," and you're losing your grip. That's what's going on.
Yeah, no doubt. When you got to say, "I'm the pastor," or "Hey, it's my way," then that means it hasn't been your way, bro.
Yeah. So listen, how often are you playing ball right now?
Before this, I was playing. I was playing about once a week or so. Once, twice a week. Yep.
Okay. Yep. Where were you playing at?
Playing at Southeastern University here. So my buddy, Coach RJ Barsh, was the head men's basketball coach here. So we'd play all the time at SEU. But so was playing at SEU, play at a couple rec centers here, in the city and things like that. So we have a lot of coaches that go to our church, and so they open up gyms and stuff like that. And so we have a lot of our young guys that maybe were playing college 3 years ago. Now they're coaching high school basketball here in the area that go to the church. And so we get some pretty good runs in for sure. A lot of college guys. I'm definitely the oldest guy there almost every time. And
I bet you're killing them though. I bet you're killing them, bro.
Holding my own. That's my goal is just to get in there and still be able to play with a 22, 23, 24-year-old that was playing college basketball 12 months ago. That's kind of that's kind of the goal.
That's insane.
Yeah. Well, the nice thing is I've always been able to see the court. And so that doesn't leave you. I can still shoot it a little bit. What's frustrating is just the explosiveness, the giddy up you used to have. It's just like, okay, I don't quite have it like that, like I used to have it. So now it's like, okay. So
I'm sure you still got it. Well, it's been awesome, man. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I love the depth of knowledge that you have. You're taking us into rosters. You're taking us into culture. You're taking us into seasons. I mean, I love your story. Really inner city, tough upbringing in Tacoma, single mom. And you get poured into, get a call of God in your life. And right now, to me, leading one of the hottest, greatest, I mean, a lot of great hot churches in America, no doubt about it, and in the world. But man, I've been watching you and Christina ever since you guys went to SCU, took over as pretty much like the chaplain there. And then 2 years later, planting Grace City Church. Made a lot of people nervous around you, but now that's all quieted down. And look at what you guys are doing. Hillsong Family Church, Pastor Brian Houston, you're under his wing.
Legend.
And I love you guys, man. I'm so proud of you. I'm an older brother.
Thank you.
You know, watching this, you know, Roger and I are like some of the best friends in the world. But ever since you guys went out, he always spoke highly of you guys, always said there's something amazing. She's going to run for Senate or governor one day, he said, and he's going to change the world. I don't know how he's going to do it, but he's going to change the world. And God has blessed you with a beautiful family, incredible church. Andrew, I can't wait till we hoop it up one day.
Thanks. I know we need to do it, man. We need to do it, man. We'll love you. And I can't wait till we're in the same space again, bro.
Me too, man. Thanks for your time. Give our love to Christina. Lisa says aloha. We love you, bro. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.